and welcome to Pique My Interest, a podcast dedicated to creativity. My name is Scoob Decker, and I am an artist, and your host. Pique My Interest is an exploration in meeting some incredible artists, learning about their craft and exploring what makes them create. This next artist turns up the heat with the hottest craft, glass blowing. Ryan Thompson is fascinated with vessels and drinkware, specializing in thin and delicate traditions of Venetian glassmaking. In his episode, Ryan explains what Venetian glass is and how it's created in the glass studio, with textures, patterns, and lines, while diving into the different tools and equipment needed in this unique craft. Ryan has a specialty working with black glass, something that a lot of glassmakers shy away from. But he found success when he made the realization later in his art that he was still able to work with it after years and years. He is refreshed by just doing the tasks of the craft. Even when the ideas aren't his, the process is his therapy. With his experience being featured on Season 4 of Blown Away, we get into forced creativity and how in glassmaking, the product rarely comes out the way you originally envisioned. It is all about learning from failures. This episode was recorded on January 13th in Toledo, Ohio. I hope you look up his work and your interest is piqued. I hope you're having a grand day, and please enjoy this week's episode I've titled, Glass Breaks. Hello, and welcome to Pique My Interest. I'm currently in Toledo, Ohio, sitting in this amazing studio with this incredible artist. How are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent, Scoob.
Fantastic. Have you done anything interesting lately?
You know what? Just making glass.
Just making glass. Awesome. And tell us a little bit about you. What is your name and where are you from?
My name's Ryan Thompson. I'm from Sandusky, Ohio, and I've been working with glass for about 14 years now.
Yes. I was just going to say, please pique our interest. Tell us what you do, but you make glass. What is your specialty within glassmaking?
So within the material, I'm most known for being a vessel maker, be it functional, decorative, or sculptural. I'm obsessed with all things glass and hollow.
Yeah, and what makes your work a little different than others who do glassmaking?
I'm primarily focused on working in the Venetian tradition, or inspired by the Venetian tradition, and this is, a style of glass that's most known for being kind of heavily ornamented or a little bit over the top in shape and form.
Yeah.
And I love that style of glass.
Yeah. And I'm myself fascinated with glass, and I'm starting to get into it a little bit, but still new. Can you tell us what Venetian glass really is?
Yeah, so Venetian glass comes from the island of Murano off the coast of Venice, Italy. They are kind of credited with developing this way of working with the material that produces beautiful objects that are extremely thin and delicate, and just, when you see one, when you have that visual language, you know exactly where it came from.
Yeah, and it's got sometimes a little bit of a pattern to it.
Correct. There's a lot of textures they use, a lot of pattern with color and line. Just to name a few of the things that show up in Venetian glass.
All right. And before we go too much farther, let's break it down. What is glass?
Glass as a material is soda ash, limestone, and silica. Those three things together produce a beautiful, clear material that's, it's hot and it's moving, and then it's absolutely not hot and very fragile.
Yeah, and we were just downstairs where you were showing us a little bit of your glass working. What are you doing while you're blowing glass? What's that process? So
the process of blowing glass is typically, for me at least, never done alone. Anywhere from 2 to 4 people assisting in the process to create glass objects.
And getting a little bit of that molten glass onto a rod or puntee.
Correct. Yep.
And then you blow a little bit into it to create a little bit of a vessel, and that's how you get started.
That's how you get started, yep.
And then it's just this teamwork, which I'm sure we'll get into, to make these beautiful, awesome, and delicate pieces. I want to know a little bit about your background. Do you have any education in glass blowing?
Yes. So I grew up an artist and had, no intention of pursuing glass, but I went to Bowling Green State University in Ohio to study visual communication technology, which is kind of a jack of all trades degree in the area of marketing, web design, photography, videography. So it was pitched to me as a young person as a degree where I could be creative, but also be in the business realm and find a job where the money was guaranteed and good and this and that. And that was kind of the pressure that was put on me as a young person to go to college and have a very specific trajectory following completing that education. I didn't do so good in that program. I was a little bit more focused on riding my BMX bike and playing drums and not really enjoying class.
As you should in college.
Yep. And, after my second year, I decided to take an art class as an elective. I'd always been drawing and painting growing up, so I took a drawing class. And while I was in there, I met a friend who said he was a glassblowing major, which blew my mind. I didn't know that was something Bowling Green offered. He was like, you should try it out. It's real cool. So I did. I tried it out. I think maybe took me 2 semesters to get into that program because at the time it was so popular. And when I started, I was terrible. I didn't really have any, I wasn't like a shining student. I still was trying to figure out my focus and all that. But, after 2 semesters of it, it was all I thought about. It was everything to me, and I switched my major and started the rest of my life as a glass artist.
Yeah, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
From one trajectory to another.
Yep.
Now I want to know, I forgot to mention where you're from earlier. You're from Sandusky, Ohio. Is there anything from your upbringing that helped turn you into a creator?
I would say so. My parents, while not creative folks, were always very supportive and nurturing in anything that I wanted to do or try out. So I was, drawing a lot of Batman and a lot of like barns and landscapes as a young kid. Mm-hmm. And my elementary school art teacher, a guy by the name of Michael Buglis, was one of the first people to, I think, notice that I had a knack for being creative, for the arts, and he, I guess, communicated that to my mom, who also worked in the school district. And I think from then on, like when I wanted to be creative or felt like there was something I wanted to pursue in that field, they were always very supportive. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so from that, a little bit of an artistic upbringing into your college, you've changed trajectories. What really piqued your interest about glass rather than trying sculpting or trying painting? Yeah,
so we kind of already touched on the teamwork aspect of glass, but growing up as I was a BMX rider, I did tricks on my bike, pop wheelies and stuff, was also a musician. And there's certain aspects of those two things that I immediately saw in glass blowing. When I first took a tour of the studio, I walked in and there was a team of, it might have been like 8 or 10 people all working on a giant piece of glass. And it was, it's buzzing with energy. There's fire everywhere. And all these different people are bringing their own, energy and their sensibilities to the project to create this beautiful thing. And I saw music in that. Making music, can be done alone, but when you bring several musicians together, all of a sudden there's this piece of music has a life to it, all its own. And I love that about glass. These finished objects were not just about the person who came up with them or is executing the idea. It's everybody's effort and energy into it.
Yeah, that's interesting. You bring the music aspect into it, because when I've watched people work in glass studios, I've often compared it to choreography.
Absolutely.
Because they're working together, dancing around each other. You have to be in sync with each other. And I think that's very similar to music.
Yep.
You all have to be on the same tempo, the same rhythm, the same page for the music to happen.
Yep.
I absolutely love that.
Yep. I think the other thing, to go back to BMX, glass blowing is it's a demanding material. When you're working with it, everything else in your life kind of just dissolves and goes away. It requires 110% of your focus, and you commit all of yourself to this one goal. And if it doesn't work out that time, you have to, take what you learned from that failure and apply it the next time you try it. And to me, that's very similar to throwing yourself off a set of stairs on a BMX bike. You put all of yourself into it, you commit to this goal, and sometimes you land with two wheels on the ground, and other times you land face first.
With your face on the ground.
So you take what you learned from that and how you moved and what you did wrong, what went right, and then you make a plan for the next time you do that.
I just want to say thank you for that push and that commitment you've made to your craft, because the products you are putting out are absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you.
What would you say your signature pieces? What's your signature look?
So I'm most known for my functional drinkware, like wine glasses, or stemware is a little bit more of like a general term for all of it. But yeah, drinkware is what I'm most known for making.
Yeah, you showed me downstairs. You have a couple glass pieces that have different textures of different black in them. You said that that's a little bit of your signature. I think you've got these very bold, vibrant colored pieces, and they're all very drinkware.
Yeah.
I also, when I showed up, you offered me some coffee. I said absolutely, and I'm drinking my coffee, and I realized halfway through that this is a Ryan Thompson piece in itself, and it was absolutely gorgeous, and it's just blowing my mind. No pun intended. But from these signature pieces to your experimentation with your glass in school to going to Detroit to really honing your craft, now you are here in Toledo in a studio selling your pieces. I'd say that's pretty successful. Do you consider yourself successful? What is success in glass blowing? And what got you succeeding in your craft?
That's a really great question. I think that because glass is it's a hard material to, I think, truly make a comfortable living at. I think a lot of people that do glass do it because they love it and hope that the passion that they put into it is what brings, the financial success. I don't think that I've reached any kind of financial success yet, and that's not really how I measure it. After getting out of college and making it, I think I was doing it for 6 years professionally. And one of my mentors, we were having drinks and talking about success and plans and hopes and dreams or whatever. And he told me that I was already successful because staying committed to this material and continuing to work with it out of school for 5 years has already put me in a small percentage of people that work with glass. It's difficult to keep doing. So 14 years down the road, having my own studio aside, just still getting to work with this material is success for me.
Absolutely. And I think it's about time to bring up another form of success. You were recently on the television show Blown Away, Season 4. I haven't gotten that far, so I don't know how far you got in the competition, but congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And what I want to know from that is how much of your actual craft is represented in the show versus how much is fabricated or dramatized.
So I think the show does a really great job of showing how difficult it is to work with glass and all of the challenges that glassmakers face when trying to make an object. But being that it's, a 30-minute show, they really can't give you that much of the process. And I think there's a lot of gaps in the information that people get from it. That being said, it's still an incredible opportunity for glass artists to, show the general public what it takes.
Yeah, I've talked to a few artists who love competition shows because it sheds light on their craft. I've talked to other artists who say that they absolutely hate it because it's not a good representation of their craft. But bringing up Blown Away, I think, leads us into your creation process. And I've always thought that glass blowing is something that you need to spend so much time in preparation for and thinking about. And then this show comes up speed now. Now you have to incorporate fast, and you got to think quick on your feet. So I want to know a little bit about your process. How do you come up with ideas in your head?
When I'm developing drinkware or sculptural vessels, it's a lot of drawing for me, either on an iPad or with a pencil or, sometimes watercolors. But I spend a lot of time drawing and then typically a lot of time failing. When you're making a new object out of glass, very, very few times does it just turn out right the first time. There's so much to learn about every shape you're trying to make and every object. So it's drawing, it's trying, it's failing, it's drawing again, trying again, and just trying to get to the point where the thing that you made is the thing that you envisioned on paper.
Right.
And I love that about this type of 3D material, where you get to come up with an idea that's two-dimensional, maybe, in your mind, and figure out how to bring it to life.
Mm-hmm. When you're coming up with an idea, are you thinking more functional or are you thinking more artistic?
It depends on the day.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get into a mode where everything I'm thinking of is functional, and I'm simplifying everything and considering how an object feels in your hands, how an object rests against your lip, and how it pours liquid, or there are all these different things. And then other times I'm trying to make a vessel that embodies a personality or an emotion, or a group of vessels that I think maybe represent the members of a family, or kind of exist together and have a relation, but are all unique and have their own voice.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to keep bringing up the competition show,
good.
but I'm curious. I'm fascinated with the concept of forced flow,
Mm-hmm.
being able to come up with an idea and execute it within a very short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Did you find that process difficult, different than your normal craft practice?
Absolutely. I think forced flow is like a really good buzz phrase. That show, in an interview on there, I said that it felt like a meat grinder for creativity. We are just forcing prompts and, a brief amount of time to execute something. And it felt like as soon as you completed something, as soon as there was a moment to take a breath and kind of reflect on how that object turned out, or how your concept spoke through the object, it was time to do another one. And it was, totally different from the one before. I found that very challenging, and the last piece that I was able to make on the show spoke specifically to that, because I was completely overwhelmed by the process of filming a television show and being creative, and it came out in the work.
Yeah. And I'm also curious, while you're working specifically in glass making, how much can the process adapt or change? I feel that it kind of is going to do what it's going to do. You can't do too much with it. You had this idea in your head. I've learned a lot of glass makers, their product is kind of made out of mistakes a lot of the time. So I'm curious, how much does it change?
So I think that depends greatly on the artist. There are glass blowers who are exceptionally good at harnessing what glass wants to do, and they allow the material to flow and move like it wants to, and then they're taking that information and then slightly guiding it in one direction or the other. For me, that's not at all how I work with glass. I really want to be in control of it 100% of the time, and I want to be extremely deliberate about what the results are. So there are happy accidents, and there are mistakes that are corrected or that cause you to adjust course. But yeah, for me, I typically have my eyes set on something very specific, and I want it to be that way. So when it doesn't turn out that way, it's kind of just fuel for me to continue that pursuit.
Yeah. I love that you find that fuel. And then while you're working, maybe even during the competition show, you have an idea. It's glass. Something breaks. Something falls. This isn't how I want it to turn out.
Mm-hmm.
Every artist runs into a brick wall. How do you overcome a creative block?
I think for me, when I run into one of the walls that you're talking of, I fall back on the most basic things in the material that I love, and that's making simple cups or bowls or vases that, are traditional. They're not unique. They're not my own ideas, but they're more like just getting to practice and keep my hands on the material that I know that I love. I live and breathe this material. So there's plenty in the well of glassmaking for me to fall back on when my own personal work or ideas are just not flowing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And to possibly help with the flow a little bit, do you have any hobbies? Do they complement or contradict your craft? I'd notice in your studio right now there is a drum set.
There is a drum set. I love music. I love playing drums. I'm in a band. We play every now and then. We're all kind of older now, so it's not like not like college, not like an every weekend thing. But I love to cook. And what else do I do for fun? I love to go camping. I think that like glass blowing always happens in a really industrial space, for me it's always been in cities. So I really love getting away from the city, getting away from the glass equipment, and roughing it a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up the industrial side of glass making, because it really is, with these giant furnaces and massive studios, and then the pieces that come out are really light and airy and beautiful, and it's just very contradictory to where they're coming from. I think that's very interesting. And I also know that you've learned how to weld. Mm-hmm. Because of your craft. You've had to learn how to do other things. You've done a little bit of sculpting to include into your pieces. Mm-hmm. You've learned how to weld to make pieces in your studio to help with your craft.
Yep.
I think that's fantastic. Do you have anything else to say to incorporating different art forms into your craft?
Well, I think that like primarily the things I make in glass are all glass, and the things that I've learned to do have all mostly just been to support the practice of making glass. So when I'm welding, I'm welding equipment for the shop. I'm not typically including any metal in the things that I make, or if I'm working with wood, it's because I needed a piece of wood in the shop for something. But I think being an artist, having a studio, having a gallery, kind of forces you to become a well-rounded general contractor in most areas. I never planned on doing drywall, but 3 months ago I found myself needing to learn how to drywall. So
does anybody want to learn how to drywall?
I don't think they do. It's a really terrible thing. But I figured it out. I got through it. Definitely not textbook in any form, but I got it done.
Speaking of learning a new craft, is it recommended to go to school or taking classes to build on glassmaking?
So I've talked a lot about this with friends. I would say that the majority of people that are in the glass industry found it either in like a public access studio or at a university, and fell in love with it, got addicted, whatever you want to say. But I think that there's something really special about getting to learn this material in a school setting. In a school setting, you really have unrestricted access to the material, at least in a way that you never would professionally. It's expensive to blow glass. It takes a lot of time. But in school, I was free to go into the studio whenever I was excited or bored or, awake late at night and not able to sleep. I could just go there, and I was completely immersed in it. And my friends who were also in the program, were the same as me. So if we weren't blowing glass and we were together, we were talking about glass. We were talking about what we were having problems with. We were talking about our ideas, and that setting is kind of, I think, like a pressure cooker for learning how to work with this material. That being said, I know plenty of fantastic glass artists that got a job in a factory and learned that way in more of like an apprentice kind of setting. And I think that's valid too, but yeah, there's nothing like getting to be in a school setting and work with glass. I think that it definitely,
Well, it's kind of like what you were saying, like in a school setting, everything is kind of provided for you. You've got to pay tuition and whatnot, but then everything's there. And the accessibility for you to practice is right there. When professionally, you got to pay for everything.
Yep.
You got to rent the space. You got to find the time, and you got to get the glass, and you got to get the finances. You got to get the studio space. You got to get the gallery space. You got to make the connections. And
yep.
Absolutely, I can see how that's very overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
But what would be your advice to get started? Because I know glass blowing isn't something that you could just pick up at the arts and crafts store.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to go out and research it. You've got to find the right places. What would be your advice?
My advice would be to find a local studio. If college isn't, like in the plans, or that's not where you're at, find a local studio and just be around. Offer to pick up a broom. Offer to hang out and watch. Do anything that you can to, help out, because glass blowing takes so many hands. There's room in almost every studio for somebody to be there hanging out and assisting in whatever way they can. I definitely spent a lot of time pushing brooms around just to be around. Mm-hmm. And glass is very much, like opportunities popping up are like right place, right time. If you're not there, it probably won't happen.
Yeah, like you were saying earlier, and what I've learned about the glass community is a very supportive community. You're all willing to help each other out. And what most of us know is the competition show, where it is cutthroat and we're all trying to beat each other. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, it is a very supportive and very collaborative community, because it has to be. Absolutely. You have to work with people and whatnot. And I'm sure that you learned a lot from that process, the speed of creation. And I'm sure that has transposed a little bit into your own craft.
Absolutely.
Is there anything that you can say right now?
About the speed and working with it? Definitely. I think that having those extreme time crunches of participating in a competition show actually helped me to slow down. I found that there's room to breathe, there's room to think, and make a more educated decision about what the next step is, rather than just flying into it and hoping that it works out.
Yeah, I find that fascinating, that this show that was forcing you to speed up taught you how to slow down. Mm-hmm. And the other interesting thing that I've learned over my time with glass is that it is a very quick process. It's a very fragile, very delicate process, and it's very quick. You have, like you said earlier today, about 1 minute and 20 seconds to mold something very quickly. Mm-hmm. And most glass makers, that's when they know how to work fast. But the show was able to force you to work fast in your creation process as well. And so I just think it's a very interesting combination, and how that has influenced your work outside of it. Yeah,
I felt the same way on the show. As I was realizing what was happening, or how my thought process was changing, I was still in the middle of it and was like, oh, this is a really cool thing. I didn't come here thinking that I was going to learn a lot about glass. I thought I was going to come here and do what I already know, but I took so much more away from that experience than I planned on.
Yeah, I'm sure taking you out of your element in some capacity opens your eyes a little bit more.
Definitely.
And speaking of 1 minute and 20 seconds, just downstairs while you were showing us around your studio, you whipped out a unicorn for my wife and I in 1 minute and 20 seconds, and it was stunning and absolutely unbelievable. And I do wish I could just watch you work all day long. It's phenomenal. Going a little further, what's next for the world of glassmaking? Are we going to see any new techniques? Are we going to start to see any new vessels being made? Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that glass is kind of, it's at a strange point in its journey right now. Some might say, or I heard a glass curator say that we are in the post-classic age of glass. And to me, that suggested that, the material's done the growing that it's going to do. And now we're whatever now is. But I think that the age of glass collectors who are buying, large sculptures for lots of money is kind of going away. The market is changing. People are nowadays more interested in an experience. They're more interested in a small, affordable object that they can use in their daily life. And for me, in the way that I like working with glass, that's, kind of a cool thing. I love making small, intimate objects that people can use on a regular basis and form a relationship with. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's very cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what's next for you personally? What's next for Ryan Thompson Glass?
Well, having taken over the studio in May of 23, I'm still figuring out how to run this business, still figuring out how to pay taxes and give people money for the labor that they put into my shop. But I would really love to develop a product line that I can retail, I guess around the world. I don't have that yet. I've not had the time, but we're getting there. So
yeah,
that's my plan.
And where can we see your work?
So I also don't really have much gallery representation yet. I have my own gallery in Toledo, and my website and Instagram are both great options for seeing what I'm working on and seeing what's available for purchase. But part of developing that product line and getting it out is finding galleries, and that's a kind of a tricky, difficult thing to do, at least something I've struggled with.
It's a whole craft in itself, trying to find gallery representation.
Yep.
You're on social media?
Yes. Ryan Thompson Glass on Instagram.
Website?
RyanThompsonGlass.com.
There it is. Yeah. Fantastic.
Keep it simple.
I can't thank you enough for joining me and piquing my interest. Off the top of your head, do you have any funny or interesting stories?
Well, I think glass is full of funny stories that, kind of get passed down over the years. And there's plenty of them. I'm trying to think of one that's happened to me. Part of learning glass is getting the opportunity to work with those who have already mastered it. The people that have been generous enough to share their knowledge with the younger generation and, continue the growth of the material. When I was fresh out of school, I was working at the Toledo Museum of Art, and while I was there, I was very fortunate to work with a handful of glass artists who have really kind of paved the way for what contemporary glass art is, and the most notable one being Lino Talapietra, who is a Marinese glassmaker who is one of the first to leave the island and come to the States and teach. Mm-hmm. This was in the 1970s, when it was still very frowned upon for Italian artists to share the secrets of their culture. So Lino was at the TMA for a residency, which is, typically a week or two where an artist gets full reign of a space to make or work on whatever ideas they want to work on. And getting to work with him was, not only a dream, but also a terrifying thing. I was racked with nerves about it and afraid to make a mistake, and I did. I made a lot of mistakes, and at one point I was heating up some glass for him that he was going to create a pattern with, and I messed up the heat, and the piece actually ended up breaking, and he kind of, he didn't make me feel terrible about it, but all of my colleagues and friends did, and I still haven't really lived down that mistake. People love to bring it up to me.
Of course.
So there's
like great friends.
Yeah, I think glass blowing it kind of requires a little bit of heckling. There's always heckling among friends, and I think that it's not, a malicious heckle. It's more of a culture that's focused on always doing better, and acknowledging mistakes and learning from them. Mm-hmm. So that's a really fun aspect of it.
Yeah, you have to learn from your mistakes,
mm-hmm.
especially in glass when it breaks.
Absolutely.
Well, again, thank you, and I can't thank you enough for joining me and piquing my interest. I hope you get whatever gallery representation you get. It's funny because I did find you at the Corning Museum of Glass. I saw some of your stuff there, and that's how I was introduced to you. I've been watching Blown Away, and I haven't even gotten to your season, so that is how I did find you.
Love that.
And I just love the fact that we get to see your work through your eyes. Literally, you're looking through tinted glass right now. It's fantastic. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up?
Well, if anybody's ever in Toledo, Ohio, please stop by 23 North Huron Street and check out our gallery. Maybe take a workshop and give glass a try. It's a really special material. I think everybody should get to get their hands on it at least once.
Fantastic. And I do like to end with one last question. Mm-hmm. If you could excel at any other craft other than your own, what would you like to do?
Violin.
Ooh, yeah. That was quick.
Always wanted to play violin. Just never did, yeah. But I love it. Maybe specifically like fiddle. I'm really into like Americana music and bluegrass and stuff, and man, I love it when somebody rips on a fiddle.
Well, maybe we'll start to see some glass fiddles.
Maybe.
Ooh, there's an idea.
That's a good idea.
Fantastic. And thank you to all my peekers out there. Please let me know if you know of any special or unique artists or art forms you think I should explore. I'm currently in Toledo, Ohio, and can't wait to see where Pique My Interest takes me next. Remember, creativity comes from the heart. Push yourselves. Be kind to each other. I'm Scoob Decker, and thank you for helping me pique my interest.